what's your client's position on this count 4 judgment that was Judge Carter? Mr. Dickinson, we recognize from your Honor's summary judgment decision that there will be some voters in that population who, if you litigated the case through to the end, almost certainly would have been removed from the voting list. We don't know exactly who they are, and we didn't litigate through the end to find out who they are. We created a process to identify who they were and amend the charter. I think it's fair to say we recognize that there is some dilution that's going to have to be addressed by modifying the voting population. The only mission is to identify, as your own lawyer said, the voters who need to be removed from the charter to comply with the Constitution. Holding referendum, holding popularity contests, offering people options that are not constitutional will only muddy the water and delay it. We're not focusing on what we have to focus in on. And I have a proposal. We have 2 charter revision committees. I won't get into the bona fides of either, but we have two charter revision committees that have done a lot of work. We should just sit down as a group. Every idea that's out there has been discussed. We need to sit down and finally answer the question your lawyer has posed. Who are the people? How do I identify the people who need to be removed from the voting rolls and amend the charter? It's one question. Let's just get to it and stop holding votes that will mislead and muddy this simple process. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Vice Chair, I have a favor to ask. I'm a little uncomfortable with people sitting behind me here. Is it possible to have them in the audience?
I'm happy here, thank you.
Excuse me, could you help us?
Melissa, if you'd like to film, you can film right from the corner there. You can get the same angle and you can see everyone here.
I'm fine here, thank you.
But someone has told us they feel uncomfortable, so that's a concern.
I'm not exactly comfortable here, having been harassed many times. Leave me
Melissa,
alone.
we're asking you politely if you could just change your seat there. You still will be able to see everyone here. You'll still be able to film. We're asking you politely and respectfully if you please.
It's not that important, and again, it's nothing personal.
Okay, all right, let's move on, please. Next.
Do you mind if I sit here?
No, I don't.
Hi, Kristen DeBurgess, 25 Stratford Avenue. First of all, I again wanted to speak about the proposed fiscal responsibility bylaw changes. I have a question as to whether or not this special meeting was called to actually approve them. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I'm looking at Article 7, the amendment of the bylaws section in the bylaws, and it says, the bylaws may be altered, amended, or repealed at any annual or special meeting, which this is, of the district by the affirmation vote of 2/3 of qualified voters of the district present at such meeting. So I don't think they can be,
No,
it's not today.
no, it isn't. It's really just for the council to look at the language and agree on it to be put on the ballot. So I don't want you to spend your 3 minutes on
Okay,
that issue.
well, thank you, I appreciate that. So in that case, I do have to say, it is a little unorthodox to have just a singular, I was here last month and I did see that it was written by somebody who has a great experience with this, absolutely, and so many people think that it's a great idea to be fiscally responsible. However, to just have it written by one person without some input, my husband, for example, he's the treasurer of the funds of a very large investment company. He's got a lot of experience. He went through them and he's like, well, this doesn't seem right, this doesn't seem right. And you know, of course, other people have said, and I would echo the concern about leasing any kind of our property. I don't know, everybody here, we bought in here, like, oh my gosh, there's a beach we can use, and there's a boat dock we can use.
I don't think the lease agreement was intended to be that. I think it was for capital expenditures.
Yes,
Leasing of
awesome.
capital.
Awesome.
And that is the clause.
Okay, so there is, again, proof in the pudding. We probably need to change that so that it's a lot more succinct, so everybody understands and nobody reads that like, oh, we can lease our property. So thank you very much for that clarification. I was nervous about that. Okay, so that's that. Regarding, the voting at next week about, just to do this vote of confidence, I again would like to ask if it's possible that all of the various options that were, mentioned at the last meeting would get some time in front of the people. Well, we all know what will happen. I'm sure none of us here are from the Beach Club, but the Beach Club will send out an email, and the email will be to all its people saying, vote this way.
Right.
I think those, out of the 1,810 people who can vote, I think they deserve to hear a little bit about each of the various things that they're voting on, because there are 10, 12 people at the Beach Club who are telling them this is in their best interest and to vote that way. I can't say they're all educated enough to vote any other way than what the Beach Club tells them to vote, so I would respectfully again ask, and also maybe not just one or two of these options, but the ones that were presented. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We all,
We won't make you get up again, Mark. No, so I think everything here has been commented on, and I just want to reiterate, number one, the lease agreement idea. I just heard you guys mention that that's not how it's intended. I mean, we all know from hundreds of years of watching state law, little words in one document get manipulated in a strange way. There is no way, shape, or form that should be introduced in any way. It doesn't matter if it says it's not intended, it's there. And we don't want to open that slippery slope. So that's point number one. Point number two, I think it's been mentioned a lot, meetings, right? We talk about collaboration and all that. In addition to do a meeting like we did with the Charter Commission, which I thought was run great, community comes together, gives input. I think we should also leverage some kind of basic technology to include the documents so that people can share and collaborate online with them. It's very simple technology, it can be used. Right now, we just send it out and say, here it is, and then people come to it. This is an important matter, and I really think it needs to be intended to allow people to read it, collaborate online, and see what happens out there.
thank you. We typically don't do this, but I think there are a lot of important comments. I don't know, is there anybody else who wants to make a comment?
Hello, Paul Luba, 98 Colonel John Gardner Road. And I wrote it. I wrote the initial draft. It was for discussion purposes, and there was discussion at several council meetings. A couple weeks ago, we had discussion on it. Some of the blanks were filled in, like when my draft, I had a 4% cap on levy, went up to 10%. As you know, 4% is the state cap, but it doesn't apply to the fire district, so, 10% is what the council deems appropriate. The lease one, surprised, I guess I should have been clearer, but it's in the capital, the debt section. A capital lease, in my mind, is debt, so it should have some rules attached to it. And I am an accountant, so an accountant should look at it, and John looked at it. So, that's it. I just wanted to be upfront and saying I did write the initial draft for discussion purposes to get things kicked off, because I think it's important. I think right now there's virtually no caps on spending, debt, no realistic caps anyways, and we do need some. I think it's more important than some of the other issues we have. Thank you.
Anyone else? So I don't know if the council members, would like to.
We were just closing public comment.
You were just
You would
closing.
like to speak.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I got it. Thank you. Sorry, thank you. So I I did email, this off to everyone last night, and in the off chance that I wasn't able to make it today. But, as you guys are talking through the voting process and making some decisions on some, maybe better ways of doing the process, some of the suggestions that I had would be that candidates, who wish to run must submit in writing, to the council a minimum of 21 days prior to the election, their interest, for open positions. That would then alleviate any write-in candidates and any, last minute, but it would allow those people that are going to run have an opportunity to prepare speeches and speak to, speak to the fire district as to why they should be elected. I would recommend approximately 10 days prior to the election date, possibly a special meeting held, and that would allow candidates to introduce themselves, why they should be elected, and that special meeting could be done via Zoom and recorded, and then that could then be I know it was talked about maybe doing some kind of video where it's looped at the day of the meeting, so that might offer the assistance of having everyone together at once, record the meeting, and then you can put it on loop the day of the annual meeting and election. Voters, I'm sure there's some rules about how many days in advance the voter registration, I think I've heard that, needs to be put together. I had made the recommendation of 30 days. Election day should be set for a number of hours. I put 8 to 2 in my proposal, whatever span of time makes the most sense, but it will allow as many people to get out to vote as possible, and potentially leave registration open during that same amount of time period. Then that way people can come in, register, and vote, either prior to the annual meeting or after the annual meeting. Those running for council could also be at the voting locations, much like we see when we go voting for state representatives do. It'll give them an opportunity to meet people while they're there, and that can be up to each individual candidate on if they want to do that or not. I had some thoughts on the proxy voters, mail-in drop-off. Voters must complete a voting ballot and have that notarized. The ballot form could be loaded on the website if it isn't already. If it's mailed in, the ballots must arrive to the fire district no later than 2 business days prior to the election. For ballots mailed in, the envelopes should remain sealed until election day. I would assume that would be the case. And or possibly having another verified voter be able to deliver the notarized piece. Again, I don't know if these are rules that can already be put in place or have not. And then the last one I had was notarized ballots may be dropped off in a lockbox attached to the exterior wall. I feel like somebody mentioned to me that had been done in the past. I don't know.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah. Again, these ballots must remain sealed and would be opened by those verifying the ballots the day of the election. So, well, I had a lot of ideas surrounding the location and all that, but you guys already settled that. So,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Michelle.
Are we gonna do annual meeting stuff?
Excuse me?
Are we still doing annual meeting too? At the same time?
Yeah, and all comments all at the same time.
Okay, yes, I didn't know if you were doing it separately.
Anything you want to know that.
Janice McClanahan, 178 Treasure Road. I was going to suggest a lot of the things that Michelle was also talking about. Especially when you're going to have a time period of like 10 to 2 for voting. People are not gonna listen to people running from the floor and all that. It needs to be cut out. People should definitely, if they wanna run, they should put in their recommendation, whether it's 3 weeks before, a month before, whatever. And that also helps with the ballot, because then the ballot can have every single person's name on it already. So we can do those ahead of time. And you know, I also agree with the fact that, you know, if you can have some kind of special meeting or whatever you wanna call it, open house, so people can just come and, you know, present whatever, but they also should be able to just put in their application, what their qualifications are, why they want to run, and eliminate, you know, a lot of the time that we spend doing crazy things. Also, the other thing is, you have to do a mailing to everybody, so then all those names and all can be somehow attached. The agenda also talks about, you know, the statement from the chair, you know, the chair usually put it in the newsletter, eliminate that. I'm trying to cut down the number of things that you need to do, because people are not gonna sit here and listen to them. And rolling a video is not gonna happen. People are not gonna sit here and do it. So at least it gives everybody who wants to run an opportunity to present themselves in one way, shape, or form ahead of time. And it just makes things a lot smoother. And then the people just have that information, they can come, vote, and leave if they want. And that, you know, at least you have that opportunity. So it's things like that, tweaks here and there. We had lockbox last time. We need to talk about proxies. I mean, they have to be notarized. But, you know, those kinds of things really, you know, are just tweaking the system. But definitely the agenda, you can't have everybody speaking that night. It just goes on too long, and we all know that. Thank you.
Quickly, please.
Is it okay if I speak?
Come on, come on.
Okay. One of the issues about voting, well, two things. One is there should be an election, day, night, whatever. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And the other should be a meeting. Those meetings are not what they were supposed to be. These meetings were supposed to be for the people to ask questions and to find out what happened during the year and make motions on the floor. That hasn't happened in the last 2 years. And as far as the election, it is so complicated and it is so cumbersome that it's not fair to people to wait in line the way they had to. We have elderly, they have no way to vote ahead of time. They can't be waiting in line like that. We really have to look at, you know, some kind of adaptive or absentee ballot, mail-in ballot, because the elderly need to, I may be one of them, I can't wait 3 hours to vote. It's just too confusing. Thank you. And handicapped.
I forgot one quick thing, if I could comment. First of all, I forgot to say my name, Kevin O'Brien, 123 Colonel John Gardner. That's for the past and for now. I also didn't realize that we were bringing up the election, so I came up to speak about the bylaws. But I did submit my name in for a candidate for a role in the council. Mark, you acknowledged it, sent an email, but I haven't heard anything back. Are we supposed to have heard? I don't know the process from here forward.
I don't know the status of the nominating committee.
I can answer that, Kevin. We just heard that the meeting is going to be next week. We had challenges with the community center. Chris Mannix was elected the chair of that nominating committee, so he's pulling it together. So it'll be here, the candidate interviews sometime next week. We're just scheduling with the building.
All right, thanks.
That's all I know. Because I just got the email.
All right, so.
Could I just make one comment? And it's really, Carolyn DeLeo, 201 Colonel John. All of the suggestions that have come in about the annual meeting really need to be put into the bylaws. And it's really not difficult. You know, you wanna pull together that bylaws committee that exists, because none of us resigned. We'd be more than happy to meet, add a couple people, because I think a couple people have dropped off. And I'm gonna tell you, we were 3/4 of the way through. Am I right, Faith?
I'll
3/4 of the
address
way
that
through.
if you would like, when you get done, I'll address it.
Yeah, we were 3/4 of the way through of working on the bylaws. I think we could really dig in and get this done. The only thing we couldn't address at the time was the section about voting. But really, for the most part, everything else was looked at, and it was all opened, it was on the website, and I think you should give us, all of us in the community, a chance
to make this right.
Let's give the council members who'd like to speak and respond to some of the statements that have been made, let's give them the opportunity to do that. So do you want to go first, Jim?
Sure, thank you, and I really do like having public comment in the beginning, because, basically what you all have come up and said, I personally agree with a lot of it, especially around the election and the process. I mean, I've said many times in public forums that we've gotta make adjustments that fit our current situation, where it's not 1930s anymore, right? And we have 774 people that came out to vote last year, and the way that it works now doesn't. So thank you. So when we get to that discussion. Regarding the annual meeting, I wanna address Bob's comment about the straw vote or the opinion poll. I know that there has been dialogue with our legislature about having them basically come in and change the way that fire districts, the electorate of fire districts. As far as I know, they have no appetite to do that. So we are in a position now where we have to follow the process that has been laid out for us, which is we present to the General Assembly enabling legislation. They have told us, if you do not have a consensus, we're not gonna let you go past go, right? Then the second part of that is if they do let us enable it, we have to let the people decide. And so our attempt in the previous council meetings that maybe some of you didn't attend was to say, we've had 2 charter committees, both a lot of work, Bob, you're absolutely right, a ton of work from both of them. And we have not gotten to the point of actually hearing from the community of voters. And it's time that we do that. I do have a concern, which I think that we have to just run by council, which is if we advertise it as non-binding, opinion poll only, is that going to put us in a position where if something wins, we've got to adopt it? And I hear you on that, and we have to be very careful about that. But the people have to vote themselves off the island. I keep saying that. And if we're gonna produce or do all this work and put something out there, and it's not gonna pass the community's opinion, then we're back at square one again. And so I think this was just our attempt to say, let's get the voice of the community. That's all. And I hear you, there's a coalition that's absolutely thinks that it should be one way and that's it. Then there's another that says there should be a compromise. And I just think this was our attempt to be able to get to the voice of the community. So
Okay, thank you.
I guess I'll address fiscal responsibility. I ran on a platform of trying to get fiscal responsibility changes put into the community. I got involved in the fire district 4 years ago because of that, and my husband was concerned when he looked at the chart. Who this someone is, Carolyn, I want to tell you, if you came to the meetings, he was identified several times. If you listen to the meetings, he is Paul Luba. He is a municipal finance advisor to the city of Woonsocket, appointed by the state of Rhode Island, so they did not go through insolvency like Central Falls. Before that, the state of Rhode Island appointed him as a fiscal finance advisor to the city of East Providence. In his role, he drafts proposals and advises the top management in those cities and the council on fiscal changes, so it does not end up in bankruptcy. So I would suggest we are fortunate to have him as a member in this community donating his time. Secondly, I also drafted them, and not drafted, I looked at it from the legal perspective, and again, I am the legal group council person on the council, and I did work, and then I presented at public hearings. Does anyone remember how many public hearings?
There were 5. that we talked about them in varying degrees of detail. February 19th, March 8th, April 16th, May 21st, and 6/18. These were all part of a monthly meeting.
So to say this was done in secrecy, this is done every day in government. Experts help council people put together information, and the council people address it, which we did at public hearings. So I want to make that clear. Also,
But that's
not
your
only.
husband, that's not.
Okay, and also,
the opportunity to respond.
he has an MBA from Yale, and that's his.
It's an OMA violation.
So there is no, it was not, it was a private citizen working with a
that's no
council
problem.
member.
Okay, so there was a thoughtful process that took place.
It was
We're not disputing that, honestly,
It's a,
we're not
it is a
disputing that.
private citizen
But where I
offering
could
information to a
Paul
council
had
member.
sat on the bylaws committee
Yeah.
as a member of the bylaws
Excuse me.
committee, and then.
I want to get this
can't
also
have-
straightened out.
yeah.
The bylaws committee had its last minutes filed May 16th, 2023. I believe the new council did not come in until September of 2024. There was no bylaws meeting for 15 months. I just want to point that out.
But that's nobody's fault but your own, right?
No,
And
you know,
council
15
was
months.
abandoned.
Listen, we're
Carolyn,
not,
you
Alright,
said
so
it
this
for
isn't
15
a
months.
back and forth, we are just trying to
I
answer the
understand.
comments that were made by all of you.
Secondly, at that last meeting, there was a consensus. Lloyd agreed we needed spendings on caps. I said we needed some spendings on caps. The mill rate was outdated, so the new council
But it's
came
in the
in.
charter.
The new council, the new council came in. We're not changing the mill rate. I don't wanna get in a discussion of law.
But it's in the charter, you
excuse me.
can't have a bylaw
Excuse me.
supersede the charter.
Excuse me.
Okay, all set? All right, I just want.
No, I mean, seriously, so the secrecy was not there. If you came to the meetings and participated, we welcomed you. We worked very hard at this group all winter.
We can't participate from afar.
Okay, well,
You
that's,
can't
but
even
that's, all
talk
right,
from afar.
let's just stop for a second, okay? First of all, we do not have to have people participate on Zoom remotely, okay? It opens us up to OMA violations. We've already had OMA violations filed against us if the technology is not working. So the council made a decision that there is too much risk for the council and the community to allow people to participate remotely, okay? So
We
that.
have to find another way for the public to participate.
We're not having these
Surveys.
public comment. We
So
did
the-
it ahead of time so we could hear your comments.
The only thing I wanted to add is there've been a number of statements made about the bylaws and the charter commission, specifically the powers of the council. So I just wanna read section 3 with regards to the powers. It says that the district council shall have general supervision and management of business and affairs of the district and may exercise all such powers of the district. It says from time to time, the council may adopt such rules, regulations, and ordinances to enable it to fulfill its corporate purposes as permitted by the charter. So, with regards to that, the council felt, my pages are not numbered, it is section 3. So, the council felt that we had the ability to make these decisions. We also felt, and I don't wanna speak on behalf of everyone else, so John and Tony jump in, but we felt that there was a need for fiscal responsibility. We follow the direction of our treasurer, who is not here tonight, who expressed concerns in open meeting and to us individually, that she was concerned about the budget. I also had personal concerns about capital expenditures and whether or not we had sufficient funds to cover capital expenditures. We talked extensively about this. We talked about the parking lot and resurfacing it. We talked about the heating system. We talked about the roof. There were extensive conversations. We took advice and guidance from John as well with regards to his background and being the chair of the finance group. So this was not done in a vacuum. It wasn't done without transparency. It was done in a thoughtful way. So those are my comments. John?
Yes. There's no one listening, you can just talk regularly.
guess the one thing I've learned tonight that I didn't know in our previous meetings is, and I should have known that it was this bylaws committee, being there. I'm not sure why we stopped with the, let alone,
We are gonna need your light on.
John, I want to clarify, you stopped in June of 2023 for 15 months.
Let him speak, you don't have interrupted.
Had that.
Stop
It
interrupting.
wasn't stopped by us.
mine doesn't work.
Yeah, you want this one?
I'll grab this one over here, hopefully.
Not working.
Neither one of them.
Oh, hold on, wait a minute.
None of them are on.
No, they're not working.
None of them are. This one was. No, it wasn't.
Anyway, hopefully I'll speak loud enough.
Use your outside voice.
You might use my outside voice. I guess something that brought to my light tonight that, again, I should have known, but didn't know, was this bylaws committee. I wish that when we look at these changes that we're trying to make, that we would go through the proper channels to make that happen. It's on me that I missed that. The one thing I do know was when we were pushing these changes for this annual meeting, it was also on the hope that we were going to have meetings with the, from the legislature that was going to either approve or not approve what we had recommended, which was the one vote per cabana, which.
That was the interesting.
But anyway, I do believe it was submitted, if I'm not corrected, so it was submitted to the legislature, but it didn't make it, so. Because that didn't get made, now I question why we need to push any of these changes through, and rather just wait and just do this all, through the correct channel, which is get this, bylaw committee back together and start going through, because like I say, a lot of the changes that were talked about on the election, I mean, I was there last year in the middle of that, and I saw all the things that were wrong that, I said, we need to get these changed, and here we are, a month and a half, or a little over a month away from the annual meeting, and nothing ever got done. And it's like, I just don't know, I shake my head because we had, I know we didn't have the full year, because we got elected at September, I think, when we got August or whatever. But still, it should have been enough time. I would have liked to, just as soon as the new council got together, grab our former clerk, grab our people who were on the tax assessor committee, talk about what worked, what didn't work, and make the changes. And here we are, like I say, and now we're scrambling to try to make something. So I am big on fiscal responsibility. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great thing. But the point of it is I'd like us to do it right. And like I say, my big concern, and again, I'll take the blame for it because I should have known, because as a council member, I should know the bylaws, I should know everything backwards and forwards, and obviously I don't. So for that, I'm sorry. But anyway, that's what I feel.
John, if I could just fill you in. The last meeting of the bylaws committee that I sat on, June of 2023.
Right.
And the then chairman never called another one for 15 months. So it wasn't, and then we got elected, and there is no requirement to have all these committees. The council can deal with issues. It's in charge of the supervision and management.
I guess, wait.
And we had their input. We had their input from the last meeting.
But I guess what I'm saying is, and you obviously knew about the bylaws committee more than the rest of us. I'm just surprised with the talk that we're talking about bylaw changes and so forth, that some hand wasn't waved that said, hey, wait a minute, we've got a bylaws committee. Let's let them, let's bring them back into this.
John, they did not address the fiscal responsibility, the issues, and it is something that I felt was very important. The committees are set up to assist the council with, and to make recommendations. We never got a recommendation out of the bylaws committee.
But I guess what I'm saying is if they were given the direction, they probably would have, and maybe Paul could have been on that as well, but it would have gone through.
So I just like to address it from, so I did read the charter and the bylaws, and it is nowhere that we need a bylaws committee. We elected to create one. Obviously, through whatever reason, they stopped being active. The website, I know, I do the website, it's TBD for the chairperson. So I think what we have to decide as a council is, are we right in that we do have the authority to move forward with creating and recommending bylaws that the people will vote on? We're not voting on these, we're giving them to the people. Or do we take a step back and we say, okay, here's our nearly final draft, and let a committee form and go through it? My biggest fear in adding everything else into the bylaws is turning the aircraft carrier, right? I know that it's not optimum to do it piecemeal, but right now I'm very nervous about the control that the council has on our finances. I don't want that much control as your council folks. We can basically spend a lot of money. And so you happen to have a very fiscally responsible council this year, but next year, are you gonna have the same fiscally responsible representatives that get elected? You don't know, you never know who's gonna get elected. So, that's what I think we have to decide. Do we take a step back? Do we just focus on fiscal responsibility? Because that to me is a priority. Or do we open up the whole patient and do everything?
Just so you know, we're only getting 2 new members, so it's not like we're bringing 7 brand new members.
The only thing that I'd like to state is, you just said we wanted to hit the ground running, we wanted to be impactful, we wanted to make changes that benefited the community, okay? What I have observed is paralysis by analysis, right? So committees are great, I think they're very important, I think community input is very, very important. But I've watched a paralysis in this community for an extended period of time, whether it be the voting issue, whether it be decisions about fiscal responsibility. We're paralyzed, and we want to move forward, and we want to make impactful changes. People may not agree with these changes, but as Jane just said, these are going to you for a vote. You can say yay or nay. If you don't agree with specific items within this, you don't have to approve it.
There's blanks and typos.
Okay,
Let's not even focus, let's not even focus on.
But you're voting tonight on the draft, that you're gonna be
So
putting
we're
forward.
voting to discuss.
And it conflicts with the charter.
Well, then you have to
Well,
have another meeting.
I don't know, again, I don't know if you went to the section that I just read, so as Jane just said, what I am interpreting here is that this council has the ability to make these decisions. These decisions, when it comes to fiscal responsibility, have to do with the benefit of the community. So I don't think we have to have a committee just because one existed. I'm not saying I'm against a committee, but we wanna see things move forward. We have been going backwards and backwards and backwards.
If you listen to all of the comments, there wasn't a one who didn't want fiscal responsibility. What we said over and over again is that there are missing items, there are contradictions, there are holes in it, there are inconsistencies. So you can't put something like that before the public if it's not locked down. I also want to make a comment
means by
that
omission.
tradition
We'll
in
take
this,
it out. We're not discussing
tradition
it.
in this
We're concerned
community
about
is
that
very
anyway.
important.
That's what we'll do. That is why we got open public comment at the beginning to get your input before we started our discussion.
And thank you for that.
And thank you for that.
Yes.
I do want to remind you that when we update bylaws, the clerk, or actually the chair of the bylaws committee, Mannix, certified that the enclosed Bonnet Shores Fire District Charter and related legislation, as well as the enclosed bylaws of the Bonnet Shores Fire District, were compiled by the Bonnet Shores Fire District Bylaws Committee. Now, tradition in this community is very, very important. Not a one of you was here 5 years ago. Not a one of you, so, and it's not an insult, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not insulting any of you, but the point is you have to understand how this community works. And that we don't like having this forced on us without having had appropriate input. I am in Florida all winter long. I tried getting online to listen to the meetings, and I couldn't always. They are not posted after the meetings are over. The recordings aren't posted. So I can't even do it.
The recordings are posted, we have.
Well, I haven't been able to find them, and I'm not in.
And again,
And you haven't sent them out telling you to go get them. So all I'm saying is,
all right, we gotta move forward, we're gonna be here until 10, so, yeah. I mean, we've allowed more public comment tonight than we've allowed.
thank you for doing
Can
that.
I just ask a quick question? Sure. With the meetings in regards to being online, how come you can't put them on the website for the Bonnet Shores Fire District?
Put the recorded meeting
Yes,
online.
yes. I honestly,
There are links to
I'm
it.
sorry, I do go on there.
So we'll do an e-blast
Well,
based
that's
on
what
this.
you do that.
We
That
will
would be
do an
great.
e-blast showing everybody where you could get them.
Thank you.
Which is why, by the way, we're getting a new website.
We always did that. In all the years I was on the council, we published it.
All right, so let's move on,
Thank you. Thank you.
First of all, I applaud all the public comment because it gives me a better insight of exactly the process previous to this council. And before even tonight's meeting, I had a concern about the timing of this. Like, what is the impetus of getting this done tonight or getting this done at the annual meeting, number one, before you comment? Two, I've been on record since February, I believe, that we did need to have someone, I manage, a lot of operational and capital projects, budgets, and physical plant improvements, so I have a working knowledge of exactly what this means in this document. But as others have stated, if this is in a raw draft form, when will it get polished between now and the annual meeting? And also, if we don't get it passed at the annual meeting, does it have to wait to the following annual meeting?
No.
Or a special meeting.
Or a special meeting? And I know I'm rambling, I'm jumping around, because I have a lot of questions about the actual draft of this language. And also, judging by the public comment tonight, usurping the bylaws committee, just because the bylaws committee hasn't met since May of 2023 doesn't mean it's right that we don't have a bylaws committee, or the bylaws committee did not, massage these documents out. And I do agree that Paul and others have looked at it, but do we need outside counsel to, independent of the community, to look at this prior to passing it? So I guess my comment, my summarizing my concerns here is the timing of this.
Tony, that's fine, if people want more time, I understand. But as Leslie said, I saw this community paralyzed. The bylaws committee has not met since June of 2000.
I would like to address that. I was on the committee, and I'd like to address that.
We're not.
I can find.
She said it 5 times.
And therefore, I came onto this council. This was one of my priorities, not the election, not the voting, was to try to get the community in a good fiscal location. And I talked about this the first meeting, that was the goal. So I want it very clear, if anyone listened to the meetings, and Jane obviously has looked at the minutes, and 5 times it was discussed. We discussed these terms a couple of times. I'm fine if somebody wants to keep working on it. But for anyone to say that this was done in secrecy is not right, because everything was done in the open meeting by the council. And furthermore, we know the work of the prior bylaws committee because we have the minutes. They never addressed, they mentioned the caps, they didn't do anything with it. And we also have all of their notes already, what their recommendations are for changes in the bylaws. It's right in the May 16th, 2023 minutes. But we never got a product submitted to the council.
Correct.
So we are a council that wants to move forward.
Right, and again, I've been on record since February, since we discussed this, and I wanna thank you for, bringing this and having this be your priority, and again, I've been on record that we need to have more than just $115,000 slush fund, that we needed to have something more structured. And I'm not in disagreement with this document, but my question I don't think has been answered is that, what is the rush on this particular language, this draft?
I have no issues, we go another year, right? So that's
So
the
that's the
problem.
issue.
Because I really,
So in terms of a
Correct.
special meeting, it costs money, and we're talking about fiscal responsibility,
Right.
so we really don't want to create any additional expenses.
Right, so
to
the net is that it has to go in front of the annual meeting, if not, it has to wait another year.
Annual meeting or a special meeting.
Everybody
It costs
has to have a
additional money.
special
And that's what
meeting
the
here,
answer I was looking for.
everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so my final question is that if it does have to go in front of the annual meeting on August 2nd, who and when and how are we gonna address between now and August 2nd, refining the language? Or is it
we're gonna
refined?
discuss it tonight,
Okay.
and then we will have it reviewed. I know Tom Dickinson already knows about these concepts, I believe. I think Carol said we're writing some fiscal responsibility stuff. But that is the concern, Tony. I do not think something as important as these bylaws should be slipped through in this special meeting. I think they need to be in an annual meeting. If it's not this annual meeting, then I would push it off to next year. But these are too important to not have the entire community voting on it.
So this is the final language, right?
No, it isn't final. What I'm
We
telling
were supposed to discuss this tonight, we were gonna go through this and discuss.
In fact, there are some blanks here because we were still talking about, were you at the last meeting?
No, I missed
Okay.
this.
We were still
So I
talking.
think one of the challenges with having the comments up front is that people then want to engage again. And the problem is we'll never get through the meeting, right? So I've gotta ask everybody just to keep your comments, you're gonna have to hold them. And then you can send us emails, you can, communicate to us after the meeting. But at this point, we've gotta move this forward. So do we want to move forward and review these at this point?
I think we ought to maybe review them and make the changes, like Bob said, one of the typos has to be 60, because, why don't we review them quickly? How's
Yeah,
that?
we could do
Okay,
that. I have a
I
couple
think the
comments.
last one we can agree, and it would be good because we have a big audience here and they can hear what we talked about. The last time we agreed to keep the fiscal year on April 30th because we wanted to have all the stuff done before the summer started and the camp and everything, so we'll keep that.
It's right here, right? You're keeping it like it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we agreed on.
That's section 1, Article 5, section 1.
Yeah,
Article
that
6.
will-
Okay.
Okay. And the capital reserve fund, this would be dedicated to the maintenance and replacement of equipment, software, and capital assets. We would put 5% of the previous year's tax levy, to this capital reserve fund. And it would be in the discretion of the council an amount greater than 5% of the prior year's tax levy may be allocated to the capital reserve fund for operating surpluses in previous years.
So just to reiterate then, if you're saying 5% of the capital budget would go in there, that's roughly $25,000 a year. And if you wanna get to, what do you say, $500,000, I think is the capital reserve that we're looking to get to? I mean, that's gonna be what?
$100,000.
Well, it's 100 right now, I think, right? But I mean, but I think the aim, I think, is to go to 500, so you need
Right.
400,000 divided by 25, that's, 16 years?
16.
16 years before you get that fully funded, that's with nothing being taken out. So I'm just questioning 5%, because that might be too low.
Okay, so
This
that's
is
one
an Open
thing.
Meetings Act violation. What? This is an Open Meetings Act violation. The agenda said you're gonna vote, this was the final draft, it says on the agenda. And now it's changing midstream. The public doesn't know that.
It says final review, discussion, consideration, and vote.
Yeah, final review, and now it sounds like it's a drafting session.
Discussion and consideration.
Seriously, Bob.
It's a drafting session.
And
extra work session.
This is what I mean by paralysis, right?
Yeah.
We can never move forward as a council, which means we will never move forward as a community. We are trying to do what is right for this community, and every time we try to take a step forward to make an improvement, we are challenged with an Open Meetings Act violation.
But this wasn't our fault. The thing wasn't ready for final approval.
It
and
wasn't
takes-
for final, it was review.
Then what does the word final mean in this?
Okay, Bob, if you wanna file,
I am
spend
going to.
all of our money on
No,
open
no.
meeting violations and do it.
You're changing it on the fly with no notice to the
Okay,
public.
we thought,
I thought this was the final draft,
Yeah.
and it is,
is that how
it
you
is,
drafted?
it says final review,
You know what?
discussion, consideration.
Table it.
We'll
We'll
table
have another meeting.
We'll
okay,
table
to discuss.
So do I have a motion to table?
I don't wanna spend taxpayer money on answering overnight complaints, whether
Do
they
it
are
right.
valid
There's
or
no way to
not.
avoid it.
Well, the last allegation you made was not correct, but we rescheduled the meeting anyway. Well, then, okay,
What's your
let's
point?
move forward, let's move forward.
Between now and August second, I have scheduled my special meeting.
Yeah, I don't wanna go forward on these sentences.
We just got threatened.
Do I have a motion to table this item
Motion.
for further consideration?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Next item on the agenda is the Bonnet Shores Fire District annual meeting draft agenda.
So I would like to just jump in and make one correction that, the way that it was written, the community does not vote on the budget. Where is that? Which item is it?
Vote to item number 7.
Item number 7, let me just get there. Item number 7. So that needs to be reworded to vote on, what is in our charter and bylaws, that the land trust allocation only and the salaries. So I can take that part out. I can take the pen on this since I'm doing the minutes, but I can take that part out and look back to the previous agendas that had similar things and rewrite that. All right, hearing the public comment, the state of the district, and I'm jumping around here, number 6, do you wanna take that out? And we can do a newsletter or something? That would be the chair,
To shorten the time.
yeah, to shorten the time
And
frame.
there's nothing in the charter that indicates that
No.
needs to be provided.
No,
And also just remember, this meeting is not being run by the chair of this council.
It's the
being
moderator.
Run by, the
Joe,
moderator,
the moderator.
and I don't
Right.
think he would be in a position to talk about the state of the district, so.
right.
Unless he's reading something that's been
Well,
prepared.
Carol did do it last
Yes, she
year, I
did.
recall, but we can, you know what, I'm all for efficiencies with this thing, so if we can take it out and put it in a newsletter,
Yeah.
does that work? Okay. That out. The, just moving up backwards, the report of the treasurer and the report of the tax collector, that is in the charter?
I believe it is.
Yep, so we have to keep those. Any issues with that?
Yeah, there's gonna be an issue, because I don't think I'm gonna be at the meeting on August 2nd.
Can somebody do it on your behalf?
Yeah, probably, if I can maybe give something to Lori, I can do it on my behalf, but I won't be at the meeting in August.
Okay.
I found that out after we, set the meeting up that I'm gonna be out of town.
Okay. We can check on that, John, and make sure we can have a proxy. Okay.
Or maybe an interim tax collector.
Or deputized.
Deputized, yeah.
All right, I'll deputize you, be safe.
I can't talk.
Okay, items 1 through 3, standard, you know, we got to call it to order, Joe will make sure everybody, we have a quorum, the clerk will attest to that, then we'll ratify the previous annual meeting minutes.
Where is the report of the nominating committee?
That's number 8.
Number 8.
So also check the order of these two.
It says,
Number 8.
it has to include the agenda, the budget, the report of the nominating committee, the report of the tax collector.
Yep. So the nominating committee is number 8. So Chris will give that report. Then, we have nominations from the floor, and again, just trying to include the feedback that we got. Do we think we have enough time this year to eliminate that?
Is there anything in the charter or the bylaws that you have to have nominations from the floor?
No, it's according to the Robert's Rules of Order. You have a nominating committee and then you provide nominations from the floor. Okay.
But I don't think there is, honestly.
I don't think there's any, you know, we just follow the Robert's.
We follow it. So, do we have enough runway
So what is
to
your-
adopt some of
what
the
is your
suggestions?
proposal?
Well, both Michelle and Janice suggested that we have candidates, that did not think the cutoff
Right,
for
but
the
I think
nominating committee.
The problem was, did you say 30 days? Let's see.
Well, it doesn't have to be 30.
10 days, could be 10.
Yeah,
We wanna know who's running.
No, I agree.
I agree.
We agree. So what do you think, 10 days? I think 5's a little short. Did you say 5? Yes.
Print ballots.
You gotta print ballots.
Yeah, you have to print ballots.
So what time do you?
Oh, ballots go out.
10 days, it's good.
At least 10 days.
Is 10?
Even 2 weeks. Right, so 2
Because you
weeks.
gotta be able to-
2 weeks
you
would
gotta
give
get
us the
that to the
ability,
printer.
because we have to communicate this to the community, because if there are people who are thinking that they're gonna be nominated from the floor, they're gonna need to be able to provide that information to the clerk, I'm assuming, or to the.
You can still write in someone's name. But you ought to know who's running for election, that's a minimum.
Well, we have a process for that, though. I mean, it's the nominating committee. If people don't come forward for the nominating committee, or if they're not selected by the nominating committee, that's when you get people running from the floor.
But Leslie, a lot of you didn't even meet the nominating committee last year.
I met with the nominating
Okay.
committee.
Yeah,
I was
all right.
nominated, but then I wasn't
Let's
nominated,
stop
but
the
that's fine.
We had no idea who was running, that isn't right, and no one thinks that's fair, come on.
So, this, I'm gonna look up the calendar here.
So today's the 15th.
So we would have to have community members that are not part of the nominating committee process, because that should move forward, I mean, it's in motion.
Right.
And we have candidates that have applied.
Right.
Gavin. So if we back up, you need 2 weeks, or not you personally, but historically, 2 weeks to print ballots?
Well, you know, they're security they're on security paper, they all have to be, like, it takes them, there's a lot of ballots.
Yeah.
They're color coded, I mean.
All right,
just
so.
throwing it out there that I wouldn't
So
wait till
we
5
could,
days
today's
before by any
July,
means.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. Today is July 1st. If we turn this around and send an email, we could have people submit their names by July 15th. That would give, the clerk 3 weeks to print ballots. And then between July
Well, not
15th,
quite, just a little over 2, right?
it's actually 3
Would that work,
weeks.
Janice?
15th?
Yeah, 3 weeks. There's the 31st in June, so it's like, you could say the 14th.
There was a deadline already, June 10th. There was a deadline.
Yeah, that was for the
People
nominating, that was for the nominating committee.
The nominating committee was supposed to get in touch with the people that said, yes, I will be.
June 10th,
vote-
yeah, that's next
June
year.
10th, he put his name in. He was supposed to be talked to by Chris Mannix, who never, ever reached out to him.
Okay, let's get this straight, we're not gonna nominate anybody.
Yeah, but
So we could even say July 14th, which is a Monday, and that would give us 3 weeks to print ballots. We could have meet the candidates the week of July 21st.
This is progress, now you're talking.
So, and then, the 14th will give us enough window to print the ballots. The
You can
20,
make
the
it
week
a
of the
little
20.
later if it helps. I mean, I don't need, 3 weeks.
No, I mean, it's 2 weeks away. I mean, if somebody's thinking about running, they ought to be thinking about it now, right? So, does that work?
That's fine.
So July 14th, deadline for non-nominating,
Because I believe the nominating
and
committee
then
meeting
July,
end of this week, end of the week.
week of July 21st, meet and greet, we can have it here at the community center. Where's Mark? We gotta get the schedule. And then August 2nd's the election, and so therefore, on the agenda, we will not have item 9, which is nominations from the floor.
Right.
That's gonna speed up, that in and of
Big
itself.
area of contention too.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
All right, now the next one is the whole concept of the nominating committee, and we have to have it because it's in the charter and the bylaws, or the charter. And I'm gonna claim ignorance on this. Do people run for the nominating committee? Because, and I thought it was on the ballot, but the way that the previous agenda items of annual meetings read, it sounded like somebody just threw out names, like on the floor.
You do, that's what they do.
Okay, so
But
it's
then-
both, you're on the ballot and you're.
No, they're not on the ballot.
You're not on the
They're
ballot.
right
Okay.
in.
Another, well, in the past, we were just a big whiteboard thing, and people would throw out a name and they,
So is
throw
that
names
how,
down
is
that
that
you would
how
pick.
we address
Okay.
if no one, either through the normal nominating committee process or through this replacement for nominations from the floor, if no one runs for a particular seat, I'm assuming it won't be council, but it could be one of the other seats.
Yeah.
So then that will only be via write-in candidates, because no one will be nominated.
Or the council, the new council will have to appoint
Appoint someone,
somebody.
if there is no write-in candidate.
Right.
Okay.
But no, I'm just suggesting, are we contemplating doing away with the nominating committee next year altogether, which means we'd have to update the charter?
That would be
Yes.
Okay, so that we wouldn't need number 10,
But wait a
right?
second, I don't think, because that would have to be voted on. So if you're gonna make a change, so we're gonna have to have an election, which that would be in the.
But you have the
we have to
bylaw
have a
committee, but
nominee.
it's irrelevant basically if you let it.
I think you still have to have a nominee.
You still have to have it, but then we can tell them they're no longer needed,
Yes.
is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask,
Because you still have to,
They are gonna be, until we change the bylaws.
You're gonna exist.
I know, okay, got it.
why can't you just do the same thing with the nominating committee as you're doing with those who wanna be nominated from the floor? And that is, they have to submit their names 10 days
That's what
after
happened.
you decided on.
Yes.
And that way
Yeah.
they'll be on the ballot.
And that's what I'm
Because it is a-
suggesting, I just didn't know if we needed a nominating committee, if we want, but we have, to the point, it's the timing.
Yeah, you gotta have it, but you don't need it.
Right,
Okay, are we gonna have any?
Huh?
well, we have to allow write-ins.
You have to allow
Yeah,
space,
We always
but,
have write-ins.
okay, just like
An election.
an election, a normal election. Okay. So 11 goes, introduction of candidate and candidate remarks, because we will move that to the meet and greet. The review of fiscal responsibilities, that's, I'm gonna just put that on hold right now until we
Put that on
figure out
Yeah.
what we're gonna do.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
If you have a candidate, they come to the meet and greet, that's fine, but some people don't come to the meet and greet, and they want information about the candidate. Are we gonna allow them to have like a flyer or something that they would be able to hand out at the annual?
whatever the distance is. I mean, they
Put
can
it
do
on
that.
the website.
Why can't you do the same thing, 10 days, 15 days, whatever you decide? They have to supply a bio with what, and why they wanna run, and send it out via email, and you might even include it in the newsletter.
People can hand out.
That's what they have in the past.
That gives
So as
you,
part of the meet and greet package, what I'm
Right.
hearing is that we could take all the candidate information and say the meet and greet is on such and such a date and time in the community here's all of their information. If they choose not to supply information, that's up to them. But then everybody will have it. And then like any election, the day of the election, they could keep their distance, whatever the protocol is, and have at it, right? Does that make sense? All right, okay, this one is contentious, the review of the non-binding referendum. I know I wanna make sure, as I stated earlier in the meeting, that if we do this opinion poll, that we're not bound to the results.
Why don't you do a survey motion?
Okay, I think we have already, the council has already voted to put this up.
Yes, we have,
And I think the question now is to consult with council.
yes.
Okay, but, if it's a non-binding opinion poll and not an actual vote on an item, I think you're fine, but let's check with.
Okay, so we're gonna consult with council on that.
I know you're gonna not like what I have to say, but option A, you can't have that on there because that's a direct violation of the consent order.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn, we've already voted on this.
Well, I
We're now
think,
setting the agenda, we would have, you know.
Let them do it.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, and then we vote, I ballot, and then we adjourn.
Okay.
So, it's on hold until, we figure out when we're gonna do the bylaw changes.
And, you know, the notice of the issue that was raised by someone, and we don't want to incur unnecessary expenses.
Yes, I know. John, who actually does that? Is it the tax assessors notices the meeting? Because we can't have all those mailings that we had last
No,
year.
it was done, I think it should be the question.
What was the question?
We incurred a lot of expenses last year because
For the notice.
like every house got like 5 different, the same letters. It was multiple
Because
mailings.
it was
We
no
wanted to do a
time, don't
household.
forget, nothing was done till like 36
Oh,
hours
I
before.
know, I know.
So there was no way of melding, mailing.
I get
But
it.
according to Lori, and I think John, you guys have worked on that now, of some of those mailing addresses, so that should not happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've got what I get from the town of Narragansett,
Yeah.
and what I get from the registered voter list. But I guess just the list in terms of the multiple things, that was, I think, I don't know who did that, was it Carol or? who
Well,
did
that's what I'm
that?
trying to figure out.
But I think it
Whose
resides with the clerk, does it not?
responsibility is it
The
to
notification of the
actually
meeting?
I think that the list went to the printer.
I know, but
But who?
who's responsible?
Who's
for it?
responsible?
Is that the clerk?
The clerk.
The clerk? All right, so I gotta get.
The clerks get it. I'm just talking about what the mailing goes.
All the tax assessors do is certify.
Not the list, and that's sort of not the
And
list,
check
I'm talking about the mailing.
You know.
So John, do we have any idea how much smaller the mailing would be than it was last year on? Based upon the list?
I wasn't involved with the mailing. I'm sure what they did is they took the list I had and did it, but I don't know why there were multiple mailings to an individual address, unless it was because of the fact that they might own property, they might own a cabana or two, and, you know, if there's more than one name on the deed, it might be used multiple times and get mailed to the same address. So I think if they keep it to just the addresses that are supplied, and again, then there's overlap between, you could be an owner and also a registered voter, which would mean you would get two. So I don't know, we'll have to figure out a way to try to meld the list. I know, but meld the list so that you're not mailing 6 times to an address.
Okay. And you're gonna do that, John? Who's gonna- That's what I'm trying to find out. Who does it?
All I do is provide the list.
The clerk.
It's the clerk.
I think Matt will need that.
I didn't do it last year, and unless that's in that other duties as assigned.
It basically says, written notice of an annual meeting or any special meeting of the district shall be sent to the taxpayers at the address supplied to the clerk by the tax collector.
Okay.
So the clerk is the one who gives notices.
But to make it more efficient, I mean, that's the point, he could just print out labels for all the overlap, and that's the problem, it's a lot of money.
Right.
So-
Leslie, look at section 3 of the bylaws about notice.
That's what I have right here.
Look at section 3 about who gives the notice.
Notice of annual or special meetings of the district shall be given by the clerk of
Not
the
the tax
district.
collector.
Yeah, but, go, keep reading.
Notice of meetings, notice of the annual or special meetings of the district shall be given by the clerk of the district, or in the case of his absence, inability or failure to act, by the chairman of the district council. Notice shall state the time and place of the meeting and be posted in accordance with the Rhode Island Open Meetings Law in existence at the time of the meeting. Notice shall appear in the Providence Journal of Providence, Rhode Island, and a major weekly newspaper published in Washington County. Said notice shall appear 2 times, the last of which shall appear not less than 5 days prior to the meeting date.
That's right. And Jane, what were you saying about the tax collector giving?
No, I'm just asking, whose
Jane,
responsibility is it?
It
Well,
is-
and I'm okay with
Yes,
this.
but just so everyone knows that all of these offices, the council can ask them to take on additional tasks. So if we need additional help from other offices, it's right in there, I'm sorry. That if the council needs help, they can direct them to
I
help
know,
them.
I just
So
wanna
we-
make sure we're gonna fiscally responsible, not send out as many mailings, that's all. So, we can ask that.
So,
Okay.
have we covered all of these?
Yes, is anything on here?
Old business, new business.
Okay, all business, new business, and that would be, no, that would be, I would think that would be right after the ratification of the minutes. I can look,
It's on the old ones.
yeah. I'll see where it's placed.
Maybe right after the state of the.
When will the verbiage or the.
State of the district, we cut out. We're not
Regarding
gonna-
the leasing, be taken out.
Do it through a newsletter.
Regarding the leasing?
They tabled it.
We tabled, so, we voted to table that will not be on for a vote this year.
Thank
So
you.
we have a question about the leasing.
All right,
Okay.
What
Do you want
else?
to renumber them now, or
huh?
do you want to renumber these now, or?
No, I've got the notes, I'll put it together.
Chris, we have to do a motion. So
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about that, we have to do a motion and vote that this is the agenda.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
We should
Did you
renumber them.
properly notice?
Annual meetings, we discussion, consideration, and vote. We do discuss and vote on the draft annual.
Oh, we're gonna have to meet
So
again.
We've done the review, we've done the discussion.
Yeah, so now do you want
I think we
to
can
go
vote
through?
on.
All right,
So that's why we just read them and you know.
Yeah, so the motion for the annual meeting agenda in this order, pending, I will say pending a possible reorder based on previous meeting agendas.
And pending the review of the non-binding referendum by our.
Right, by our legal counsel, is item number 1, call to order, which includes pledge of allegiance in reflection on deceased members of the community, proper notice and quorum attestation from the clerk, the ratification of the 2024 annual meeting minutes, old business, new business, report of the tax collector, report of the treasurer, the vote on the land trust allocation and the salaries of tax collector, clerk, and treasurer, report of the nominating committee, and the review of the non-binding referendum items, providing we get the clearance from the, our council, vote by ballot, and adjournment.
And so we're taking off, permanently fiscal responsibility for this annual meeting?
Yeah, we can, yeah, or put it on hold
Okay.
based on the feedback. But it is a risk, okay? You're gonna care of, you know.
Working it out.
You know, I actually do
Okay,
believe you could hold a bylaws committee meeting.
Excuse me, can we continue with our meeting? What's the next item?
I think we,
Before you go on, why can't we're not gonna, I thought we were gonna try to have another special meeting.
Yeah, I thought we were too.
Yeah.
That's why I was confused.
Yeah, I'm confused on this one.
Oh, all right.
So we tabled it to consider it for another special meeting with a redraft. of-
Prior to August 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Are
we
we
will
meeting on July
approve
16th?
this agenda as approved. Additional,
The
any
special,
additional items that are determined to be added.
We have a monthly meeting on July 16th.
Yeah.
Why can't we talk about that? What's that?
okay.
And then also number 7, I told you to strike number 7.
Just
No,
strike certain
I'm
items.
striking where they approve the budget. We have to have this part.
Okay.
Right, so
Okay.
I'm just gonna say, remove the budget part.
Okay.
Okay. All right, am I missing anything?
Janice, when does the notice have to go out?
say that again?
When does the notice have to go out, 10 days or?
For what, which
Yeah,
one are you
Yeah,
talking
where
about?
we put the agenda.
Well, it should be
In the mail.
newsletter that goes out to everybody, the agenda has to be in that.
Yeah.
And it also
No,
has to be noticed in the newspaper.
9 days. 9 days.
9 days, and then it's like, I think
Excuse me.
within 3 or
Yes,
5 days
Janice,
before
what?
the meeting,
I can't hear you.
twice, 2 other times.
Okay.
9 days and then like about 3 days or 5 days before.
Okay.
It's a good time to do that, but the.
Can we just
the agenda
finish
has
the
to be
motion?
posted.
Well, before we finish the motion,
Okay.
well, we're still in discussion, right?
Okay, we're still in discussion.
I think it's important that we try to nail down this draft version and get the language correct before August 7th.
Of the bylaws?
No, of fiscal responsibility.
That's the bylaws, yeah.
Right,
So
Okay.
you would like it on the July 16th agenda?
I would like to vote on it at the annual meeting. I wouldn't want a whole year to go by.
Well, I wouldn't either.
Because if we're
Okay.
close, right, if we're close, and it's just a matter of nailing down some language,
Yeah.
I think we can get it done, I think we can get it on the internet. I'm just one person.
Okay. So the motion should read, motion to approve the final draft agenda as follows. Call to order, proper notice and quorum attestation, ratification of minutes, report of the, old business, new business, report of the tax collector, report of the treasurer, the land trust allocation and the salaries, the report of the nominating committee, and then the review of fiscal responsibility bylaws, providing the results of the special meeting indicate that we will move forward with putting this item on the agenda. Okay?
That's special,
Well, not
maybe
special.
the council.
Yeah, a special monthly council meeting.
Yeah.
And then review of non-binding referendum item on the ballot, pending consultation with council, vote by ballot and adjournment. Anybody,
Old business, new business.
I said that.
You did.
It's, yeah, I said that.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Okay, can we finish the motion? No. So, motion, somebody motion that?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, somebody second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Can I suggest that the report of the tax collector and the report of the treasurer be written by each of them and attached to the ballot that people will see, so that they can read it at leisure, or read it, understand it, could ask questions at the meeting, which is what they should be able to do.
Okay, that's a wonderful suggestion.
And then we don't need to worry about whether, John can be there or the treasurer can be there. I mean, they could present it, but this way, it's in, and it doesn't have to be lengthy, I mean, you know, anyway, that's my suggestion.
No, it's a good suggestion.
Thank you.
So the
And
notice has
also-
to,
Huh?
the notice has to be posted with the Secretary of State. The notice in the newspaper reads 2 times, the last not less than 5 days before the meeting. Mailings to the taxpayers, etc., has to be mailed at least 9 days before the meeting. That includes the budget, the agenda, and everything else you wanna put
So,
in there.
the meeting, we have the meeting on the
So you gotta
sixteenth.
figure out-
It's gonna
you
be
gotta do that
tight, because you're gonna
pretty
have to get all that printed,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna have to get it in the mail. So, we said at the next meeting, but I don't know if it needs to be a special meeting before that.
Yeah,
if
we might
wanna
have to
consider
do a special meeting. And I'd like to just ask anyone to please feel free, I mean, we have a great audience here tonight. If you have comments on these fiscal responsibility, suggestions, send them to the council members. And we will have them so we can move this matter along, that's all.
Okay, ready to adjourn?
Can, before we do that, can I just make the, council aware of a couple of points? I've got my tax collector hat on right now. First of all, we are in the process of, the tax sale on those 22 properties. So those letters went out on Friday to those 22 people. So that's number one, and number two is when I sent out the delinquent list about a week and a half ago, I got calls from several of our landowners saying that they already paid, and they showed me the copy of the check that they had actually written. And so it's kind of peculiar that the amount owed was the exact amount of the check. So I went back to iGov and I says, can you look at these and find out why the payments were applied to those accounts? And they ran a query and found out that there were probably 18 people on that list that had already paid, but were on my list that I had sent out delinquents on. So I remember telling the board a couple of months ago that I thought that our delinquent list was high. This is because of that. So we found the problem, but again, there may be residents that got a delinquent notice that shouldn't have gotten that.
And I'm getting quite a few.
Do you know, John, do you know the ones that shouldn't have gotten, and should you send a message?
Well, that's what I'm planning on. I just found this out on Friday.
Yeah, I would.
And, I've been, busy yesterday and today, so my hope is I'll be here tomorrow and Thursday, and we'll be proactive in sending out an email. So I just want the council to know that the error wasn't from the tax collector, but it was from the software company.
Yeah,
And I'm a little bit disappointed in them that, I have to find this error, and I'm still pushing them to tell me how this happened.
And how do we know it doesn't happen again?
Well, and the funny thing is these were all people who paid their tax bills back in March.
So was that money deposited into
Yes.
the account? It
Oh,
was
yeah,
deposited?
yeah, we got everything, we did everything right on our side, it's just for whatever reason, the, check was in iGov, never
Was
got
not applied
applied
to the
didn't get applied to the account. And so,
They should send
I've
out a
been
letter
getting a lot of
down
calls
to the
and
government.
emails. I'm coordinating with John appropriately to make sure that it's all taken care of. So anybody that's got a delinquent tax notice that has paid, John is aware of it.
so, I just wanted to count, in
Thank you.
case you guys get anything, boy, that tax collector is really wrong, you can't do anything right.
Well, they didn't ask me.
I know.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?